Hello everyone, I'm Yang Li. Today I would like to present our research work regarding automated extraction of domain knowledge in practice, the case of feature extraction from requirements at Danfoss. As we know, software development starting with the software product line engineering approach can preserve the information about commonality and variability and enables the maintenance and the evolution of the large number of variants. However, introducing software product line engineering approach to a legacy system that has been evolved for years is difficult and time-consuming at first. All the information regarding commonality and variability are not documented clearly. In order to assist the process of recovering this information like domain model from a legacy system, reverse engineering techniques are usually used to extract features from artifacts such as code and requirements. In previous work, we have shown that software requirement specifications are suitable artifacts to extract such information, but so far our technique has been only evaluated with rather artificial requirements, and thus it is unclear whether it can cope with specialties of real-world requirements as well as scales up to a large amount of the requirements documents. In order to achieve this, we analyze requirements from Danfoss based on the techniques and experience achieved from our previous research. In particular, we focus on firstly extracting features from requirements, and then we further extract feature terms from requirements belonging to a feature. After conducting the manual analysis based on the extracted feature and feature terms, a final feature model can be generated. In this research, we proposed three research questions. For research question 1, we want to figure out the accuracy of the extracted features. And for research question 2, we focus on whether the extracted feature terms can provide hints for domain engineers to identify features. For research question 3, we plan to discuss how our proposed approach can improve the process of domain analysis. Firstly, let's have a look at how we extract features from requirements. We found that in Danfoss' case, the requirements usually contains different types of content, like tests, features, and tables. Moreover, according to the specialty of Danfoss' case, we split each requirement document into three parts: the name, structure, and body of the requirement. And the body of the requirements actually denotes the main content of a requirement. Firstly, we just focus on the textual information, so we extracted all tests and removed the figures and tables, but if some tables also contain textual information, we extract this text from the tables. We use a sentence here as an example to show what the results looks like after preprocessing. After we achieve the preprocessed requirements, we use document vector based on neural word embedding techniques to train a language model. We show a simplified example here with three preprocessed requirements. We can see in this language model, we can achieve not only the requirement body vector, but also the word vectors of the requirements. We can see the blue bullets represents the requirement body vectors. Afterwards, we use IDF to weigh the vectors of a word in a requirement name, and then the requirement name vector is achieved by calculating the average vector of all the words vector in a name. Here we can see an example of achieving the vector representation of lam-array. Finally, we can get the cosine similarity to measure the similarity value between two requirement bodies or names. That is, we measure the cosine value of the angle between two vectors. Moreover, we also take the structural information of requirements into account. That is, the hierarchical structure of such documents. We show an example here. We can see the numbers like 1, 2, 1.1, 1.1.1 are used to denote the structure. We assign different levels to the requirements to present the structural similarity, and the levels are aligned with how many numbers are the same from left to right. And then we define the different threshold used to calculate the similarity of the requirement structure. After achieving all the similarities of the requirement body, name, and structure, we assign different weights to them, and then calculate the final similarity of each pair of requirements to form a similarity matrix. Finally, we fit this similarity matrix into a hierarchical classing algorithm to extract the initial feature tree. In order to extract the feature terms, we make use of our previous research achievements to make this happen. We briefly introduce it here. We use part-of-speech patterns to firstly extract the candidate terms. Secondly, we analyze 6 different attributes of each candidate terms, for example, whether a term contains a proper noun and so on. And finally, we use a prediction model to predict the feature terms in each feature based on the attributes. Finally, we developed a GUI to show the feature tree structure on the left hand and the features and feature terms on the right hand. The GUI can also be used to edit the feature tree, which assists engineers to generate the final feature model of feature tree. The dataset we used from Danfoss contains more than 2,000 individual requirements, which sums up to around 400,000 words. And we also list the settings of document to vector, width, and prediction model used here. Since there is no ground truth of this dataset, we mainly use precision of meaningful features to evaluate the extraction results. A meaningful feature represents a certain functionality. We also consider about whether an extracted feature should be split into 2 features or 2 features should be merged with each other. We also make a comparison with our previous research, and we can see there are less meaningful features from our current approach 1, than the ones by using approach 2 that should be further processed. Well, a precision of 78% for the extracted features is not very high, but we consider this as a reliable basis for engineers to further refine the true features. We also use precision to measure the extracted meaningful feature terms. Meaningful feature terms describe a specific functionality also, and we measure the meaningful feature terms just in meaningful features. So because for each feature, the number of the extracted feature terms is different. In order to provide multiple perspectives, we divide the results of extracted feature terms into 6 categories according to the number of the terms extracted from each feature. We can see that the precision gradually decreases as the number of feature terms extracted from a feature increases. The potential reason is that the prediction model we used is trained on a small data set, which limits its ability to process a relatively large number of terms. But in fact, the engineers do not need to check whether every feature term is meaningful, but should get some hints from the feature terms when dealing with some complex features. So even in cases where high accuracy is not achieved, the relatively accurate feature terms are still useful for analyzing the intention features. The extracted information can be seen as a good starting point for generating a feature tree or feature model to improve the process of domain analysis. In our research, domain engineers initially check the requirements to identify the key special points in the requirements. For example, whether the requirements are structured well, and then a discussion between domain engineers and data analysts to see what information could be useful for feature extraction. For example, in Danfoss case, we also take the structure of the requirements into account. Then, data analysts analyze other characteristics of the requirements, for example, the number of words contained in the requirements, the characteristics of the requirement name, or the writing format of the requirements, and determine the suitable algorithm and the corresponding parameters to extract features based on feedback from domain engineers. Finally, domain engineers work on the extracted result to achieve the final feature tree or model via a tool, for example, the GUI proposed in our research. Based on feedback, we argue that only providing a complete framework that combines an automated extraction process together with a guided and a graphical representation for manual adjustments can help domain engineers in practice to recreate domain knowledge from requirements. So in this research, we firstly proposed an improved method to extract features in terms of Danfoss case. And we also use a prediction model to predict feature terms to assist domain engineers to understand the notion of feature. Finally, we developed a GUI to show the extracted information and assist the engineers to generate the final feature tree and model. In future work, we will continuously collect more data from different domains and more feedback from engineers to improve and generalize our approach. Yeah, that's all for this presentation. Thanks for your attention.